Guys, welcome to the Vlad Catcher Show, the #1 show for founders, execs, and entrepreneurs who are scaling their businesses. This video is presented by ControlUp, and we have an amazing interview for you today with its CEO, Jed Ayres, about how he is growing and scaling the business. Jed, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Vlad. Great to be here.
So tell us, Jed, what is ControlUp and how does it work?
Well, ControlUp is a leader in a category that's a new space for IT called digital employee experience. And it's really very simply, the idea that you can see into the world of your employees, both the device, the applications, the network, and you can really contextually understand the type of experience they're having. But not only can you see it, which is one piece of it, you can also understand where the anomalies are and fix them before they become kind of a productivity drain or a friction or even a security problem. So it's a very exciting new category. And it's really a keyhole into autonomous workspace management as we add AI into this and ultimately autonomous IT operations.
And can you tell us more about the products and kind of some specific use cases, Jed?
Sure. Yeah. So the product is really it's a beautiful platform at this point, right? Where we're able to see both on the virtual desktops, which is the origin story of the company. Probably one of the hardest user experiences to tune, right? Is anybody's ever sat behind Citrix or VMware or Microsoft in a virtualized session. This is always challenging, right? Also on the physical side, be able to see into your physical device, the applications there as well, hardware. And then also into your home network, wherever you might be, being able to take all of that data. We collect about 10,000 metrics with a really light agent, and we contextualize that around a human with a score and really be able to visualize for IT what that experience is looking like. And most importantly, we can see when that experience is redlining and having a problem, and then we can intersect it. So it's widely used in by help desks, by IT, trying to give themselves sort of telemetry into organizations that might have hundreds of thousands of people, and many of them might be working from home or a coffee shop or wherever, right? And many of them are on calls like the one we're on right now, Zoom, Teams, and they need to be able to see in real time, where the problem may be.
And can you tell us, so if a business is not using ControlUp, right? So if they're not using your solution or some alternative solution, what problems would they face? Because I think it's very easy for folks to grasp the value of your product if they can see, here's the problems I would face without your product.
Yeah, so I think that it's sort of like trying to fly a plane without a cockpit, right? It's like all of a sudden, or going into a room without the lights on. You turn the lights on, suddenly you can see, where the furniture is and how to navigate around it, right? And so I think that's really what we see and what we hear from customers. And you asked a little bit about where, the types of customers and use cases, but imagine you're a hospital, right? Where you have 50 hospitals and hundreds of clinical settings. And, these are frontline users that are sitting behind these devices, right? They're badging into them and they're expecting, the applications to come up within seconds because they're, working on a patient and they need the records. And so, this is where our technology comes into play, right? You can quickly understand in these frontline use cases, especially where they don't have the luxury of even opening a trouble ticket. Hey, it's taking way too long for these people to log in, or the applications aren't loading fast enough, or the cart that they're using that move around the hospital, the Wi-Fi is dropping. And so, yeah, without those tools, you're kind of at a loss, right? And then when you add them in, not only are you able to see them, but then you're able to add automation in, right? So that then every time you trigger one of these anomalies, you're actually wiping it out with an action. So these automated actions. And as you can imagine, with AI coming, the ability to surface the anomalies and also, write the actions that need to be taken to eradicate the problem. This is starting to really take shape. And I think this is over the next 6-12 months, people are going to really understand this technology as the ability to kind of disrupt the way that we've thought about managing, patching, securing devices and optimizing experience.
Jed, just to make sure I understood correctly. So I'm imagining a business, and the business has, let's say, hybrid employees, right? They work in office, they work somewhere at home sometimes, and their device, their laptop, might become slow. And since the laptop device becomes slow, if they use your product, the business will know that the device became slow, and they can proactively solve this problem without the employee reporting this to HR. Is that like kind of one of the use cases? Did I understand it correctly?
Absolutely. That is a big part of it, right? Is the ability for IT to spot where the problems are. And of course, if one person's having it, it's a chance that many people are having it, right? With that application or inside of that cohort of the network. And so it's really about, taking a lot of productivity drain and friction and frustration out of the equation. And now that, we have this huge set of data, as you can imagine, the footprint that any employee is creating, across the metrics we're collecting, right? We're collecting about 10,000 metrics every 3 seconds. And so the ability to sort of see that using the AI lens and find those anomalies, as you can imagine, these models are just getting smarter and smarter. And then also the ability for an employee to completely bypass the help desk too and directly interact with the model, right? And say, hey, I'm having an issue with one click of the button, and the remediation can happen, from there directly, right? Without ever having to open a trouble ticket. So yeah, we like to say the best trouble ticket is the one that you never have to open.
Yeah. And who's the ideal ICP who usually buys ControlUp and pushes it up in the organization?
Yeah, so today, the budgets and the sort of focus of this, it tends to be the sort of IT buyer that controls the end user compute, and the biggest budget is typically with the guy who's responsible for the physical devices and the applications. But more and more, we're seeing interest from the help desk, where we're wiping out, big percentages of trouble tickets. We're seeing interest from the security teams, the networking teams, and it's becoming a really, that's what's energizing for me. I've been in IT for the last 3 decades in this space, and when you sit in a room and you have cross discipline kind of interest, and everyone's kind of bearing down on the data and the platform and getting value out of it, that's very energizing, right? So we tend to sell to end user compute professionals, but we're getting wider adoption and interest, and then we're also getting more and more interest in the C-suite as well, because there's great ROI on this, not only in the productivity part of it, but also reducing the number of tools. That's a big part of this, right? There's this a lot of IT operational richness in the platform, so we're typically taking 3 or 4 tools out when we put in this platform, and that obviously CFOs love that.
Yeah, yeah. That means they can use less tools for their business if they use your product.
Yeah, I think if you look at kind of historically how we've come to manage Windows and Macs and Chromebooks, I mean, it's just a stack of agents, right? Every one of those agents represents a tool. Typically, that's a swivel inside the help desk where they have to go find another tool to help solve a problem. So we imagine a world with this platform where you have way less tickets, way less tools, and way fewer human hours that are chasing kind of the same problem over and over again in an enterprise. And yeah, ultimately, what today we talk about digital employee experience. I think tomorrow we'll be talking about autonomous workspace management, and ultimately this whole opportunity manifests itself in an autonomous IT operations construct.
And what's the smallest size business that typically really benefits from your product?
Yeah, it's interesting. We actually, our origin story was one of very product led out of Israel. It was, 2 founders that, built this solution, and they did it in a way where it almost went viral without a sales team. And I'm not sure if your audience truly appreciates, product led growth, but that was the origin story of the company. And so we are one of the few players in this category that services kind of the lower end of the market. We go sub 1,000. I would say the sweet spot is sort of 1,000 to 10,000, but our biggest growth is the largest enterprise today, and that's really where we're winning a lot of hearts and minds, and the growth of the company is coming from extraordinarily large environments where they're getting value. But I'm happy to say we really serve the entire spectrum of the market, and that's quite rare in this category.
Are they usually switching from another solution to your solution, or is this usually the first time that they're buying this product?
It's a great question. So, what's interesting, when I joined as a CEO almost 3 years ago, I thought, oh, new category, everything will be greenfield. This is going to be really fun, right? We'll be sort of telling about this new technology and new category, and it will be sort of a new sale. But what you find is there's actually only a handful of companies that have the right ingredients, that have proven to be a leader in this category. And so, almost all the big wins that we have today, we actually are replacing some legacy tool in the unified endpoint management space with our product. And so, yeah, it is sort of like, hey, take out this tool that might have good observability but doesn't have the remediation, right? That's typically what we see, or does one thing, and hey, this platform does 10 things for you. So it has been very much taking out tools of legacy unified endpoint management. And that's very exciting because almost every win we have today, we take 2 or 3 other tools out. And that obviously helps pay for the platform.
Yeah. And what's interesting is it seems if it's a bigger business, like you mentioned, 1,000 employees, and up, bigger company, your product is kind of a clear value add because you make the employees more productive, you reduce the support tickets, you eliminate a few other tools. What's usually holding these businesses back from buying ControlUp? Is it that they're not aware of your solution, or is it some bureaucracy, or is it they don't want to change from some old legacy tool? Like, what's holding these guys back from buying your product?
It's a little of all of that, right? I think part of what we typically have to do is get in, now that it's not sort of just a download and go kind of single SKU solving a single problem. We have to get in and really showcase, hey, this is how you can get full value out of this product. We tend to let the agent run for 21 days. We come back then with a full C-level kind of readout of where and how we can help the company take tools out, create the automations, reduce the trouble tickets. One other area we really help people is we have all this real-time data. Well, guess what? There's big tools of record out there that people use that have static data in them, right? And most large enterprises are using Microsoft Intune to manage their devices, or they're using ServiceNow to manage their tickets. And so we have really beautiful integrations with these tools that bring our real-time data right alongside those trouble tickets or those devices, making it that more powerful, right? If you're a help desk administrator and you're looking at a ticket in ServiceNow that was opened a week ago and it's enriched with real-time data, that can be very powerful for the IT. So, yeah, I think the biggest inhibitor really is just sort of getting your hands around a pretty fast-moving category that's sort of new to people, right? And getting comfortable that, wow, I can take tools out, I can create automations, I can do this enrichment. Yeah, getting people comfortable with that is probably the biggest inhibitor. This tool actually can act as advertised. Gartner, I don't know if your audience is familiar with Gartner, but they have a Magic Quadrant. They've published 2 in the last 9 months. That's how fast this tech is moving. We've continued to move up into the right of the leader quadrant. They've just come out with a new voice of the customer, which is kind of like the pure insights, right? It'd be like, do you want to take the food critics version, or do you want to take the hundreds of customers that have looked at this and rated it? We rated actually the very highest on the voice of the customer. So I'm super proud of that. And that's kind of a new way of that Gartner's, helping the enterprise make decisions, is calibrating how the hundreds of customers that have rated this. So I feel good about that.
And you became CEO in 2023. And when you kind of took charge, what were your priorities?
So my focus initially was managing this sort of path out of a single product that was very effective and kind of almost went viral, right? And it was moving into an enterprise platform. And so hiring the the right sales team, the right sales leaders, putting a lot of new processes and tools in place, new commission programs, new channel programs to really make the move into an enterprise platform. And then we did the same on the product side, right? It was like figuring out how to bring all of our products together into a single unified interface. This was also quite a lot of work. And then at the same time, yeah, just continuing to build a back office that this whole thing can sit on, that's enterprise grade, follow the sun, highly available, highly scalable.
And Jed, to make that transition, right? To make the transition from the founder CEO to a professional CEO, it's not always so easy, right? Like, what's the key to doing it right?
Well, I think I would just tell you first, I've done this 4 times. I did it with an American CEO, British CEO, German CEO, now an Israeli CEO. I think the most important thing is having patience and empathy, and really, you want to contain the magic of what got the company to where it is, right? And really try to understand there's something there, right? Founders, they all have some magic capability that led to the success that they had, right? And so it's about, making sure you don't break that, but also putting in the processes and the people to take it to the next, stage of growth. So leaning into some of the amazing intellect and, things around innovation and speed and, the sort of idea that you can do anything if you put your mind to it. So some of that entrepreneurial grit mixed with some executive maturity, with people that have playbooks that have done the 100 to 500 million ARR.
And whenever the business is kind of your size, right? You mentioned 400 employees for ControlUp. Which one or two activities take most of your day? So this way, it's like it's a full view to all of our viewers. Whenever the business is of this size, you have so many people, you have so much revenue. Which two things take up most of your day, Jed?
So I've worked with the same chief of staff for 20 years, 5 different companies. And, I always tell her the same thing, right? I want to prioritize my week and my days to be with customers, right? And to be with our sellers, talking directly to customers. And then, I would say beyond that, it's also our partners and our employees. Lots of meetings with customers, though, is where I try to spend my time, because I learn so much from them. I would say, there's quite a bit of internal executive meetings relative to strategy. And so I do spend especially right now as we approach the new year, around budgets and how we're going to continue to growth. That's our most important metric today. It's is growth, right? And really taking advantage of this moment in time in this category to have outsized growth. We really believe we can build a pretty large company here and grow well into the 20% year over year, continue to do that. And that, as you probably know, in the software world, it puts you in the upper decile in terms of growth. So that is the most important thing I work on. And then, the other counter to that is working with our existing customers, right? And on net retention and gross retention, those two metrics, making sure that those stay healthy. So lots of time with existing customers as well.
And when you mention talking to customers, not the existing customers, talking to customers, by that you mean potential customers, like trying to help close
Yeah,
those leads? I see.
exactly. Getting out. Sometimes in a company our size, right, we're not Cisco or Microsoft or what have you, right? So having a CEO who flies in and meets the team and they can see the whites of my eyes and the commitment we have. The biggest sort of compliment that I got coming out of our customer advisory panel was, one of the customers said that we're building a very humanistic, authentic, culture here. And so I'd like to believe that starts at the top, and it means, going that extra mile instead of being on a Zoom call, you know, going to a hospital and meeting with a CIO and, talking to them directly or having lunch with them, breaking bread, right? It's just like how you build relationships. You can only take a Zoom so far. So I think it's very important to get out and, especially at our stage, evangelize. I have more probably stories about how the tech is being used that I can share. And I guess that would be something I would leave with your listeners, right? Like, stories rule. It's all anyone ever remembers. And so, when I can sit with a financial services organization and share, hey, how Confi use ControlUp to reduce their outages from 3,700 to 800 and save $14 million this year, and I can show how they did it. It's very, very powerful. So I think the world is thirsty for stories. It's all we really truly remember. And that would be some encouragement I would have for any of your listeners is figure out how to tell your story in a way that isn't features and functions, but is, outcomes.
Jed, you're like a very hands-on CEO, meaning you're you're hands-on, man. Like you're going out, you're meeting with potential customers, right? Like you're not just talking to existing, you're meeting and trying to help, convert potential customers. That's so inspiring and impressive because the company's so big, right? 400 people, and you're still going out yourself, to help seal those deals. I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
really
I'm
inspiring.
literally I'm going to New York next week and Chicago the following week, and I'm still texting every one of my sales reps in those markets saying, "Hey, let's make sure we get more meetings." Right? It's the end of Q4 too, right? So we want to a company our size every quarter. The exciting new thing is every quarter can be a historic quarter, and that is that's something that gets you springing out of bed in the morning, right? Is to be writing history every single quarter.
Well, Jed, I'm so grateful you came on the show, shared the ControlUp journey, many of your valuable business lessons. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our viewers before we log off?
Well, I guess in the spirit of enlarging my network and the fact that you have 1 million people on this channel, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, have more discussions about leadership and or digital employee experience and where ControlUp is headed. So, you can find me on LinkedIn, Jed Ayres, and look forward to having a relationship with you. Uh, you know, starting there.
Sounds good. All right, Jed, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time today.